I guess this video is for anyone that's had to start over, who got diagnosed late, or spent years pretending to be someone they weren't. I want to talk about the concept of identity and just how much this concept has been questioned and doubted our entire lives, pre and post diagnosis, and the identity of ourselves. I want to talk about masking and how we can often merge ourselves into the versions that others need us to be, and that this is about survival. But I just want to discuss it. It's a gentle reframing conversation around your life before the diagnosis. But you get the concept. The concept of identity has been something that has been very much on my mind as of recently, because I feel like I lost my entire identity in the last couple of years. It has just crumbled to nothing. And as horrible as that sounds for someone who hates change, it is kind of liberating at the same time, because when there's nothing there, you have to pull something together. You have to build yourself up from scratch. And I felt like, and I feel like, currently, past and present tense, I'm getting to do that. I'm very, very stubborn in this pursuit to understand my identity more than ever before. And so this is a conversation that I'm just like rearing to have with you guys today. I am a chronic people pleaser and have been through and through. I can definitely recognize that, and it's something I am in the very early stages of like bringing down a couple of notches. But what I will say is, even when I was a child and teenager and I didn't have the language and I didn't have the understanding of myself, or, you know, the autism diagnosis was years away, I still very much had this strong sense of self and needing something of myself to be true. And amongst all of the people pleasing, I've always had this deep craving for self, for knowing myself, even while I'm shape-shifting and masking into people or positions or viewpoints that others need from me. I still had this deep knowing that I needed something true for myself, as I said. And this might have come through the way that I dressed, or my music taste, or my hobbies. I never really kind of caved into peer pressure. You know, I kind of went through high school and my university years not kind of participating in the party culture. I mean, I did to some extent, but when I did, it was always because I wanted to. It was always because there was some freedom in that, but I never overdid it because someone else was like, come on, why aren't you drinking? Why aren't you doing drugs? There was still this quiet little knowing of who I was. And I think that a perfect example of this, like that a lot of us feel, is that we were, you know, too normal to be diagnosed with something, but also too weird to kind of have neurotypicals accept us and understand us. This was certainly the case with me. You know, I remember being 17 years old, and I came to my friends in one lunch break, and I said, like, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel. And I didn't know why I needed to start a YouTube channel. There was no one around me that had started a YouTube channel at all. It was not a concept that was familiar to me, but it was something that I knew that I needed to do for myself. There was a time in which this YouTube channel, my very first one, like got out to the school, and it was truly a terrible time in my schooling experience, because I very much was lay low, don't talk to people that you don't normally talk to, and just stick to what you know. And suddenly I was a little bit more in the public eye of school. But even still, as people are, I'm not going to say bullying, because I know that people have had far worse experiences with people's judgments and criticisms and bullying, but they certainly weren't encouraging. A lot of people certainly weren't encouraging. It was kind of like they were mocking me in some way, But even as all of this noise was kind of going on around me, I still had this quiet knowing, and I'm going to say stubbornness, to succeed. Like, their insults or their mockery or their jokes actually made me double down further of knowing, like, you guys are all afraid of someone doing something for themselves that's out of the ordinary. And I had this perceptiveness, I had the maturity to see that at a very young age. I'm getting off track here, but all I'm trying to say in amongst all of this is I've always known who I am, and other people's comments have done very little to sway me from ultimately what I believe to be right for my own life. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this feeling of just self-trust, despite how lonely or mocked or isolated you have felt in your life. I want to do a little frame here, a reframe, because I know that there are so many of us that relate to being people pleasers. Maybe you're a bit of a fawner, and it was a means of survival. I just want to say that. But just because you are those things, or you have been those things, or you have done those things in order to survive, I just want to say it never meant, and it still doesn't mean, that you lack identity or your own opinion or your sense of self. It was a luxury, I think, to feel safe to express your own opinion or express your own sense of self and it not be rejected or judged. It was a luxury that not a lot of us had. So this people-pleasing way of doing things became a form of survival. But at the end of the day, I just want to remind you that there would have been instances that, you're socializing and someone might have said something, and on the outside, externally, you might have agreed with what they said, but internally you knew you had a different opinion. And this is where that quiet sense of self and identity and opinion was always there, regardless of whether you agreed. You were agreeing externally to survive, but there was still this inner knowing, I'm not sure if I agree with that. And that part, that quiet little part, is how strong your sense of identity has always been. And I just want to reframe that, because I think people pleasing, we ultimately think of it as a negative, and certainly the consequences of it can be hugely detrimental to ourselves. Reframing it to be kinder to ourselves, I think, is a better way to go. Some signs of strength, some signs of your own identity even before you got your diagnosis could have been like walking away from a situation that you didn't agree with. Even if people called you dramatic, even if people called you antisocial, regardless, you felt, okay, this is not where I am meant to be. An example of my own that I can kind of talk about here is I have often looked out for the kind of outcasts in society. I find that I am no different to them. The only difference perhaps is I developed an extremely thick, stubborn mask so that no one could see my vulnerabilities or my anxieties. But if I didn't have that, I could so easily be in their position. And so, there was this incident on a school camping trip that we went on, and all the, popular mean girls were picking on this one girl who I had been all the way from 5 years of age up until, whatever age we were at the time, all through school. And they were kind of picking on her. And I decided in that moment to go and sit with her and talk with her and show her. And that's bringing up an emotion just now, that she wasn't alone. In some ways, it's probably incredibly selfish, because in some ways I'm possibly doing that for myself. I'm tending to those parts of myself that feel like how she did or may have felt. But in any case, that was an example I am giving to share that there were always moments of stubborn self, I suppose. Perhaps you followed your own compass, your own sense of style, your friendships, your music tastes, the way you presented to the world. These are all such amazing things because you didn't follow the crowd. Even though you're already feeling like this world doesn't understand me, you still try to remain true, and still in amongst all the chaos, you still try to come back to some sense of truth for yourself. And that is such an important thing that I just need to let you know, just in case you haven't acknowledged that for yourself. So when that diagnosis came along for me, or that self-diagnosis came along for you, whatever the case may be, I think what it did for me, and probably for a lot of you, is it reminded me of who I was, and that, yeah, I was born different, and that's a really important thing for my identity, is to be different and have different ways of thinking and living and being and existing. The thing that I wrote here was the diagnosis made sense of the clues that I was already leaving for myself. So that stubbornness, stubbornness is the word that I've always heard tossed around in my life. Like, you're just so stubborn, Elena. And I love that. It's one of my most favorite qualities, because it really has allowed me to do all the things that I have done in my life. It's certainly not made it easy for myself or others, but it's gotten me to where I needed to be. It reminded me that I was always trying to build a sense of self, even before I had the freedom of knowing the language or the diagnosis or what was going on in my brain. There was always this deep desire to understand and to have some truth. So now I want to come to the concept of autonomy and how important autonomy is for everyone, absolutely, but definitely autistic people. So what is autonomy? Well, autonomy is having control over your body, environment, time, energy, and choices without being coerced, guilted, or invalidated. I think that there have been many, many times that I have felt suffocated by many different friendships, relationships, working environments. I've always had this deep desire to have my own way of doing things, and if someone is trying to tell me what to do or pressure me into doing something, I fight back all the more harder. I think autonomy becomes all the more important after a diagnosis, because, for so many of us, we have spent so many years shape-shifting, masking, adapting to what other people want, what other people expect, just as a means of survival. And so when we suddenly are given this option of, like, it doesn't have to be this way, you don't have to live like this, you're allowed to be different and you're allowed to have your own say for your life, suddenly no one can tame us, suddenly no one can tell us what to do, and it's really liberating. It really is so liberating. And so some of the ways that autonomy has shown up in my life since my diagnosis is, I think, number one, it's listening to my sensory needs a little bit more instead of just trying to push through and soldier on. So if there is like a loud environment and I'm still enjoying myself enough to stay, I will put in my little loop earplugs and not really be embarrassed or draw too much attention, just quietly tend to myself and my own needs rather than, no, it's good, I'm fine, I'm just pretending that everything's fine, but it's fucking not. I think it's having choice, allowing yourself the freedom of choice. So this might come in the way that you want to stim publicly or at home, what you want to eat, at what time of day, what time you want to go to bed, how you want to dress, how you want to present yourself to the world, the identity, the sense of self. Again, as I said at the beginning, it's just broken down to nothing sometimes at the time of the diagnosis, and then starts to come this choice, this power, and suddenly I get to decide for me for the first time in my life, and this is so equally liberating as it is terrifying, but I'm so excited to know what I actually want for myself without someone telling me. It's so good. I think it's also even just like down to choosing your own communication style. That might be having a conversation, how your tone of voice or facial expressions are coming across, getting to decide those things, but also how you text and the non-verbal communication. Suddenly there's not this pressure of, oh my God, I need to perform and I need to say X, Y, and Z to be accepted. It's like, actually, fuck that. This is how I want to deliver what I want to say. Also, it's about no longer forcing yourself to be productive in neurotypical ways. So the neurotypical world likes to work from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and your entire life be centered around the job, and then everything else that you want to do comes secondary to that. And so I am really trying these days to listen to the way my brain works. You know, sometimes I want to work at 10 p.m. at night, and I can flow and be in the state of flow far easier than I can in the middle of the day when there's noise and, you know, emotions going on in my head and thoughts going on in my head, and I just want to go, shut up, stop, do this later. So then that comes to like designing your day around your own natural rhythm when you go to bed and when you wake up. Finally, I think for me right now, it's about exploring my sexuality and my values in a way that may not make sense to anybody else, nobody else around me, but it's making sense to me, and that feels so juicy and so authentic. And there's no therapy quite like it than actually listening to yourself for the first time in your life and not giving a fuck about what other people think. And that's why my strive for autonomy, it's just so good. It's just so nice. At the end of the day, this is just meant to be a gentle reminder that your sense of self was always in there. Pre-diagnosis and now post-diagnosis, self-diagnosis, whatever. It was always there. You are here right now listening to me. So there is this stubbornness and this want to learn and understand about yourself. And so really give yourself a pat on the back right now. Like, you are killing it. Please continue to make the decisions that feel right for you, and fuck the rest. Fuck the noise, fuck the opinions. It's not important. It really isn't important. Your own autonomy is what is going to heal you. And I'm going to leave it there because I feel like I'm starting to lecture you guys, and I don't want it to feel like that. I want it to be a conversation. So please send through your responses. I love reading your guys' comments. It is so healing to myself and to other people. You guys are such wise viewers, and I'm so lucky that you watch me. If you'd like to follow more of my social media accounts, they're always linked down below. Go give them a follow if you so wish. No pressure though. You have your own autonomy. You can make your own choices. And I love that for you. I'll talk to you guys in my next video. Bye.